Hello and welcome to Clay to Canopy, the show where I attempt to make just about everything from the ground up. My costume is almost complete. I am just missing one thing. So today I am going to make a broom. Come on, let's do this. Lucky enough to have some pine trees that have really long needles close by me, and I have harvested a bunch of these needles because I thought I was going to get into pine needle basketry, which I attempted to do and then got bored really quickly, but I still have preserved all of my pine needles in case I ever wanted to go back to that craft. But what I did learn is that the pine needles work best when they are wet. So I have a tray of soaking pine needles. I don't work with them green because I don't want to damage a tree. These are things that I just collected from the ground that the tree has given me. While these are soaking, I am going to begin stripping the bark of the log. I was off for a walk this morning, knew I was going to make this broom today, but had no idea what I was going to use as the handle. Underneath one of my very good friends, one of my favorite trees, was a giant tree limb that had dried and fallen. It was like the tree was begging me to take them. I hauled this back. I had two people try to take my branch from me today, and I kept telling them that I needed it. Anyway, I think I have just enough to make the two brooms, one for my costume and one for the play center for the cat thing that I'm making. I guess the cat toy. I don't know what it is. The cat center, the activity center I'm making. I should mention that this is a magnolia branch. It will continue to dry and weather, and as it does that, the wood will shrink and the bark will begin to crack off. Now, if you are going to make one of these and you're only going to use it for a season, then you don't have to strip the bark. In my last environment, I built a wonderful shave horse, so I'm going to be donning my gear and jumping on the shave horse to clean up this log as soon as I figure out exactly where I'm cutting it, because it's a little bit of a tricky one. I can see that this line here would make the best straight line, but this section is kind of thin, and I think maybe too thin for an adult broom, but maybe perfect for the cat play centers. So that leaves me with this kind of wonky curve if I want to go ahead and take that. A bit of a debate here. Do I want it wonky or do I want it straight? Got a lot of wonky in my life. Well, what's a little more wonk, huh? All right, let's go do this. Not liking that. Stake somebody with that thing. Suited up for no reason. I guess I should have checked the bark before I even bothered, huh? It's just kind of crumbling itself off without me having to do anything. Which is kind of nice because at least I won't have the shave marks. I'll retain more of the log this way. I'm gonna just go ahead and I guess flake off what I can and give it a good clean, and I think I'm ready to go. Wow. Whew. Alright, that took a bit out of me. I took all the bark off and scrubbed down the branches a few times. There is a little bit of discoloration. The tannins in the bark dyed the wood. There were little eyes that appeared along the branch that really look awesome. I'm just going to leave it natural because it looks really good the way it is. To have them out drying in the sun. For the moment, I'm going to move on to prepping the pine needles. And this is something that is going to take quite some time as usual. I pick the easiest of projects to do, don't I? I think what I'm going to do is take several needles, bind them together in groupings. It's similar to the wrapping that you would do if you were making a basket. I guess I'm going to count them out because I probably should make sure that they're all even. Let's do 10, trying to make sure that they're all about the same height. Even though these are long pieces, they're not going to be quite long enough to give me the length I want, so I will be stacking these, but the first step is going to be to bind all of these bunches together and just have a stack of bunches that I can then work with. I'm just going to take some of this golden thread that I have been using, wind these into a bunch and tie it off. As you can see, there's not much to it. I'm just going to continue to make these stacks, make a pile of them till I have what I think is enough to create the bottom bulk of the broom. So this is going to take some time. Hopefully I get in a groove and this doesn't take all of eternity to get done. The soaking just helps the needles stay straight and also keeps them from breaking apart as I bind them. I did have an issue previously when I tried to work with them dry. As I was binding them, they would totally break apart on me. My pieces are washed and cleaned, and I did a little bit of sanding on the ends. Now I'm going to be doing oil coats on the two branches and then continuing to bundle up pine needles. Those are taking forever, as I knew it would. I'm going to probably take at least a week of doing this where I come out, apply some coats, and I probably will only be able to give it 2 coats per day. It may take anywhere from 5 to 10 coats until I'm happy with the sheen, and then I will come back and do some waxing. If you are doing any kind of oiling, you want to make sure that you deal with your rags properly. Teak oil is combustible. Usually I will have a bucket of water that I throw any of the rags, gloves, brushes, things like that in. It separates the objects from the oil. Because it's in water, it can't really catch on fire. And then I just let the stuff evaporate and I end up with a hardened shell of finish. You can skim that off and throw that in the trash. I am finally happy with the sheen I'm getting after applying 6 coats of Watco teak oil, and it is time for me to hit these branches with some wax. I'm using my favorite Citrus Shield. It's just a paste wax. It's similar to car wax, so I'm going to be putting a thick layer on and then buffing it out with just some old rags. I don't want to talk about the ongoing pine needle situation right now. It is taking me ages to bundle up all of those pine needles. Been doing it a little bit in between my classes when I'm on breaks. Just regardless of whatever finish you are applying to your pieces, adding this layer of wax protection and anything that's going to be handled, it's great for furniture, for anything that your fingers are going to come in contact with. If you don't have this protective layer of wax on it, your oils in your fingers will start to degrade the finish that you put on. This wax just gives me an extra layer of protection. As I was buffing out this piece, and this is the smaller branch which I knew was going to be for the cat broom, I had left it long because I wasn't sure how much I was going to need, but I knew it was going to be way longer than I needed. But anyhow, I realized that this top part is telling me that it needs to be a wand. This gorgeous knotting that is happening here, I don't know if it's knotting. I really love these little bits that you see coming through, and I think that this would be a really amazing and powerful wand, especially since I have a fondness and connection to the tree that this came from. Things got a little carried away as I began making this wand, so I decided to make it its own video. Please keep an eye out for the video coming soon on how I made the wand. I have spent a couple weeks making bundles and it has been quite agonizing. But I think I'm at a point where I am ready to start assembling my broom. So I have them laid out here by height. I do know that I'm going to have to be dealing with some trimming here and there. And I think I'm just going to make a roll out of these, kind of like a Swiss roll. I don't know why I keep calling it a Swiss roll. Like a placemat roll, where I'm just going to weave the whole strip of these that are all the same height together so that it's one continuous roll, and then I can take that roll and then wind it around the broom. Of course, I'm completely winging it. Have no idea if this is going to work. And I have this idea in my head of what I think it should look like. In my 3D class, there was an assignment a couple years ago where I had them deconstruct a broom and use the bristles to create a 3D sculpture. And having taken apart a few brooms, I have an idea of how the broom actually comes together. I mean, of course, it wasn't a witch's broom, it was a corn husk broom, pretty similar. It took some shorter ones and I bundled all of them together. This is ultimately gonna go in here. I have some loose ones that I'm going to place around to give it a little bit of a bulk up, but also give me somewhere for me to tie this first part. As I was making this, I was thinking, how come in Harry Potter there's like no art class? Who taught them how to make the magical objects? Somebody had to teach Ollivander how to craft wands. That is something you learn. So why were there no art classes? Somebody has to make these objects. I think that's totally messed up. You know who does have art classes? The Worst Witch. They made a remake, a TV series of The Worst Witch, and there's totally art classes, and she crafts a staff, a magical staff in it. Anyway, a little peeved about the series for not having an art class. Much needed in the magical world, in my opinion. Alright, so for this, I am gonna hit this knot with a little bit of super glue, because then that'll freeze the knot in place. I'm trying to avoid using glue for the process of making this. This is such a nice piece of magnolia and I'm really happy about it, and over time I can imagine that these pine needles might need to be replaced, and I don't want to ruin the handle by applying glue. I do have my hot glue gun heating up over here because I thought I'd put a little bit in here to hold it in place while I'm tying. Drinking my bowl of coffee. I'm gonna do a bit of trimming here before I add any more layers. Just trying to determine if this looks thick enough for me. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this tied up. So it does need one more layer just to bulk it up, but I wanted to make sure that I keep this layering thing happening. The next grouping of pine needles were a little bit too long, so I trimmed them down. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and get this tied off. And I think this one will be finished, and we're gonna move on to making that last one, the smaller one, for the cat activities playset area. Whatever that thing's gonna be. I am almost at the finish line with these magnificent brooms. I am just so excited about them. They turned out really well. I'm really happy with both of them. And this guy. And what is up with all this noise lately? Okay, so the only thing I have left to do is to name my brooms, because a good proper flying broom definitely needs a name. I have been waiting for this tip to come in the mail. I have not used this yet, but it is supposed to engrave metal, and I have some brass here that I'm about to cut up. And this is just craft brass. I have a pair of tin snips, and I'm going to cut up some strips to engrave on the cricut here. I'm going to do the same thing that I would if it was a piece of wood. And I'm going to get some blue tape and get that on there. Oh, it's offset. How is it not centered? I think I got it a little too close. I'm going to have to redo it. And that's totally my bad. Anyway, it looks really awesome. Savern Rager is for the large broom. Savern actually means Sabrina, so throwback to my girl Sabrina the original witch, and Rager references the raging water. Fun fact, Sabrina is also a goddess of water. Oh, and grasp your broom firmly by the handle. Alright, if I were to actually fly this broom and mount it, I think this would be the position I would be doing it, and this would be my gripper. I think this label is going to look best right about here, because this would be where I'd be grabbing, and I don't want to be grabbing where the label is. Seems about right. And here we are. My beautiful label. So this is the cat broom, and of course my black cat is a Bombay. Also the cat on Sabrina was a Bombay. Alright y'all, I got my ride all ready and I am about to fly on out of here. I know, total cheese, right? Please stay tuned for more Halloween fun. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so already, and I will see you soon.